Welcome back to the Layman's Law School. It's a new year. Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
2025, bringing it in
That's right.
strong. Some of us
harder
than others.
Yeah, I don't feel any younger. I can tell you that. That's.
Well, today we didn't wear our florals today, but we are going to discuss this bouquet of lawsuits.
Beautiful
that
segue.
That have blossomed between Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni.
That's right. And before we start, I'm going to give a brief rundown of kind of where we are procedurally. Before we start that, that's what I'm saying. We got
first
some
beer
business to take
first
care.
beer. This is the first beer of the new year.
Absolutely.
Let's begin the unfortunate.
So
Start the torture.
I got some bad news for this. Cheers. I'm going to have to bow out. I'm doing dry January.
Me too.
All
All of a sudden.
I'll just have to fake. Cheers it.
Chace, you're doing dry Bud Light for life.
Yeah.
That's what you're doing.
Let's do a.
You can you can fake cheers it.
Chase is like, wait, why haven't I always thought to do dry every month?
Cheers. I don't know how I feel about
Here,
that.
I'll cheers you.
I think you should feel fantastic.
It's one more beer for me.
Tastes like America.
There you go. I'll leave it
use
right
my
there for you.
dad's phrase. Tastes like old hose pipe. Like, first of all, you can't have a hose pipe. It's either a hose. I mean, it just
it's always been called a hose pipe.
I don't like hose pipe. That doesn't sound right to me.
Yeah, go get.
If there's no hose on it, you're drinking from the spigot.
You're drinking from the hose.
No, you're drinking from the spigot.
But you're
If
not
there's
drinking
a
out of the
hose on
hose
it, you're
pipe.
drinking from the hose pipe.
It's not a hose pipe. You're drinking from the hose.
Let's check the definition.
As
of
many
Black's Law
times as y'all
Dictionary.
talked about the hose pipe thing, and it's just now come up for y'all to have a debate about it. It's crazy.
All right, so what's going on with these lawsuits?
All right, here we go.
I am
Chase.
in the dark here.
All right. So I'm going to try to make it brief, and then we can dive into a little bit. But so Blake Lively was losing the PR battle with Justin Baldoni.
That's kind of an opinion, but go ahead.
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair. I think it's pretty
Out the
fair,
gate.
though. Yeah, I think it's pretty fair. And so she files a legal complaint. And so when we hear complaint, we think lawsuit immediately.
Sure.
But this is not what this is. And Shawn, you can talk EEOC in a second. But so she files a legal complaint with the California Civil Rights Department. And essentially they have to give her a right to be able to sue. We'll talk about that. But in that meantime, while she's complaining of sexual harassment and retaliation, in that legal complaint, she filed an actual lawsuit in the New York federal system. And I believe, let's see, I can't remember exactly what her claim was there. Let's see. But either way, Justin Baldoni filed one on New Year's Eve at 5/12 in the federal court. And his charges were libel, invasion of privacy, promissory fraud, and breach of implied in fact contract, which is different. And he filed that against the New York Times because of the article that the New York Times wrote about Blake Lively's legal complaint to the California Civil Rights Department.
Why are they following all this during the holidays?
Well, I mean,
Ain't nobody's in
first of
session,
all,
right?
I mean, some people.
Is there a
I
strategy
didn't,
behind it?
Before I started
Yeah,
hearing
definitely.
about these various lawsuits going back and forth, I had heard about the movie It Ends With Us, but I've never seen it. I never seen.
I haven't seen it yet either.
any
but
really publicity for it. I never knew who this Baldoni guy was
I like Baldoni.
at all.
Baldoni sounds
Obviously,
good.
I know who Blake Lively is. Big fan. But she's blonde. I mean, what can I say? As is Lindsey now.
Yeah.
That's right. Surprise.
New year, new hair.
Big
New
fan.
hair, and
Big fan.
alcohol free.
Yeah, exactly.
Changes around here.
I thought
That's
blondes
not
had more
permanent.
fun.
That's a dry
I thought
January
blondes had
thing
more
only.
fun.
I don't know.
I've heard.
I had plenty of fun as a brunette, so
Yeah,
I don't
that's
know.
right.
But it's in the media, obviously, because that movie was a outstanding hit. I think Chace said
$350 billion.
Yeah, $350 million
Yeah.
at the
Million?
box office.
351 million at the box
So far.
office. Yeah, so far, and
I believe their cost is 30.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's a pretty
Yeah.
good return on investment so far.
yeah,
For a little dramatic.
But
Yeah.
and
That-
this doesn't hurt.
True, but so to your point, when you said you were like, oh, I didn't even remember anything like when it was being promoted. Even when it was being promoted, they were already dealing with a lot of drama.
Absolutely. Yeah.
This mudslinging, if you will, of Blake Lively started when they were promoting the movie.
Yeah.
She caught a lot of fire on social media, and there were videos of her when they were on the press tour of her saying to people, hey, as I mentioned in the beginning of the episode, a lot of people know this because a popular
Florals.
clip that keeps getting shown is her saying, "Ladies, go put on, wear your florals, grab your girlfriends, and go to the movie." And it was like she was celebrating the main character's sort of empowerment,
Like
and
girls' night out.
and
but,
she would have
yeah.
a girls' night out, right? And she never talked about the domestic violence aspect to the movie.
Yeah.
Baldoni, on the other hand, in all of his press stuff, was talking about how serious of a matter it was and how, this was such a message to send out this movie. And he didn't make light of it very much, whereas she was making light of it all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what you find out in this complaint, I believe if I'm saying it correctly, is the layman in the room, is that one of the examples that was used was there was a PR memo of some sort, if you will, that went out and said, hey, when you're promoting the movie, keep it light. Like, don't focus on the domestic violence thing, which is what Blake did. And then all of a sudden you see that she's getting attacked for it.
Backlash
Right.
for it.
And so some of that you're starting to put some things together and go, wait
Sure.
a minute. It kind of makes sense.
But you mean, that's what I mean. You can get into the weeds on what these people have done, because it goes back and forth where you say, anyway, you can go factually back and forth forever, right? And so I think it's just interesting on how this has been laid out, right? I think, so first of all, thing I want to talk about too is that both sides have been caught paying money for what they call astroturf. It's a new term to me, astroturf. And it's
not a
just
new
a
term,
group
maybe
for
in
me.
this.
For me, it's a new
Yeah,
term.
yeah,
I know
yeah.
it's probably not.
It's
to
a new
people.
definition to an
Yeah,
old term.
yeah, I know.
that's what I was
Yeah,
getting
yeah. But it's basically both sides have been found that they've paid groups of people online to make it seem like their side is winning the publicity battle.
Right.
And so they've both been caught doing that. And that's not
Right.
illegal. That's not anything. But that's just that
Shady.
kind of, and it kind of
Well-
shows you what these three cases are kind of about, at least in a little bit. I
Yeah.
mean, it is, and the time that it was filed on Friday. When I say filed, Blake Lively's legal complaint with the California Civil Rights Department was filed on Friday afternoon, which is commonly referred to as a news dump, where essentially, I made some notes on this. It's a practice of releasing unpopular, controversial, or damaging news late in the day on Friday. It diminishes over the weekend, and it's done to minimize impact of unfavorable stories. So I found that interesting that you would do that for the Friday afternoon before a Christmas holiday.
If you've watched The West Wing, you know what a news dump is.
See,
hopefully.
yeah, okay. Well, I don't watch any of that, but that's an interesting.
That was
It's just interesting on, like, we're lawyers, right? It's interesting on the timing of things and how this is played out.
Sure.
That's
We saw it in the Johnny Depp trial where we had two Hollywood actors fighting a legal battle in the middle of Virginia. And why were they doing that? It's because the court sessions are televised in Virginia.
Mhm. Yeah.
And so, but yeah, I think you're seeing a lot. What you're seeing is two people that don't like each other very much, and they had some questionable behavior occur on set, and one has thrown a punch, and then this is what happens when you get millionaires with more money than sense. That they start, if you swing at me, I'm gonna swing back. And I don't want to delegitimize some of the complaints here, because some of them are pretty serious. Invasion of privacy. Blake Lively has been basically saying that he came into her dressing room when she was unclothed to a degree while she was breastfeeding, that he did some unwanted kissing and stuff like that. I mean, is that kisses on the cheek as you greet somebody and she doesn't want that kind of thing?
but
Some of it was
I
during,
don't know.
some of it was during scenes.
At the same time,
Yeah. So it's like
in
he's
his
the director.
lawsuit, he's put
Yeah.
forth those same emails that say Blake Lively to him, "Hey, I want you to run through scenes with me. I'm breastfeeding the baby, but come on in." Like, so
Right.
it cuts both ways, and that's what I
Sure.
mean.
Yeah.
If you talk factually, you're going to go back and forth and back and
Sure.
forth forever, and but there's a lot of things that outside of because this is there's a 250-page complaint, and there's text messages, and there's on and on and on. So right now it's kind of Blake Lively's jumping on, and then the public opinion of Baldoni's gone. Right, everybody hates him, and then when he files it, we'll see what happens. But his claim is that these text messages were doctored, and
Right.
that they've been taken not only out of context, but they've
Right.
been manipulated.
Right.
So it's
Sure.
one of those same things. You go, well, we got to wait to judge on this situation, because when I heard about and looked at Blake Lively's complaint, I was disgusted. And
Yep.
I'm like, let's string this dude up, right? But let's wait and see. What if that's not true? What if that's
Right.
I mean, it's like reading a book for the first time. If you read, a book, your imagination is taking into consideration everything you're reading, and you're putting faces on characters and personalities on characters based on the way it's written and everything.
Sure.
When you read, the allegations that Blake Lively puts forward, you think, well, this Baldoni guy, who was the director and the lead actor, is a creep.
Yeah.
He took advantage and wrote additional sex scenes and additional climaxing of Blake Lively into it.
Right.
And she's saying, I didn't sign up for all that, but I did it anyways. And
Right.
I've been complaining about it. Plus the, inappropriate comments, walking into her dressing room while she's unclothed, things like that. So it makes you immediately, when you read one side of it, be on her side.
Yep.
Right.
And then when you start seeing evidence on the other side, or at least allegations of evidence on the other side, and some text messages, you start to think, well, where's the truth here?
Right.
Maybe somewhere in the middle.
Always is. Always is.
And I want to make it clear about Ducey. Sorry, his
Okay.
claim is
I'll hold
against New York
Right.
Times for their, I guess, misrepresenting a story and manipulating it in such a way to characterize it in a certain light, taking things out of context, not
let's
including
talk
all
about
the
actual
information.
charges, Chase. I mean,
Yeah.
libel, invasion of privacy, promissory fraud, and breach of implied and fact contract.
Uh-huh.
And so that's the claims that he has against New York Times, but everybody sees it as against her, obviously. But it is that the New York Times essentially bowed down to these high-powered celebrities in Blake Lively and her
Ryan Reynolds.
Thank you.
But
And
it's
did their bidding.
defamation, though, right?
Sure.
The
Yeah.
actual charges are libel,
Right.
invasion of privacy,
Yeah.
promissory fraud, and breach of implied and
Right,
fact
and
contract.
he's a public figure, and so in order to prove that case, they're going to have to show actual malice.
Oh, yeah.
That not only did they know that these things were false, right?
Well,
that they manipulated them, and they were doing it because they wanted to harm him. That's
And
going to be
Chase,
a
one
tall
thing, and
order.
another thing, talk a little bit about, if you would, when you're a reporter or somebody in the news, you get leeway.
You do,
And-
yeah,
and, Like, how does
Yeah.
that work? If versus me out there just screaming it on the on the street,
Sure.
there's different rules. That's
well,
all.
obviously,
yeah.
Reid,
rules.
you're a public figure, so there's different rules that apply to
Well,
you.
there's different rules for people that are public figures because they're acting, they're doing things in the public, and you might not know all the facts, but you can actually see them on the city steps doing a particular thing.
Yeah.
Right? And your job and your role is to actually report what's happening. Well, if that person is on the city steps and they're, making a statement, and that statement turns out to be false, right? You're not going to be held responsible for
reporting
what the person said, and so public figures usually they're treated different in that there is a requirement to show that you're lying about that person and you did it with malice. You intentionally tried to hurt that person, and it's reserved for those people that automatically put themselves in the arena to be talked about a bunch, right? For everyday citizens, you don't usually have that. You don't have that type of requirement. If you say something false about someone else that harms them, harms their business, then you can hold them responsible for libel, defamation. So
It's basically two different standards.
Yeah.
Defamation is what everybody calls us about and says but you have slander. That's someone that is actually speaking
Slander.
something falsely about you.
Yeah.
And then you have libel, which is something that is written and published about you, and it has to be false. You have to be able to prove that it's false.
yes,
Right.
And it has to damage your reputation in some form.
you have to be able to prove it.
And
how it damaged it,
I
affected
did
it.
think one of the interesting charges or the charges against New York Times for Baldoni, like what if he says, if everything he says is 100% correct, I don't know how you win on these charges against New York
I
Times.
think
A promise. Let's talk about breach of implied and fact contract. It's still a contract. you still, if you look, I mean, you
What
still have to
contract
have
did he have
offered.
with them?
It's a public,
Yeah.
like me and you have a contract of human beings. We all have a contract with other fellow human beings to do.
Yeah.
But I don't know how you have an offered an acceptance. You have a blending of the minds of mutuality of the
Yeah.
agreement,
Right.
or consideration given on either side. It to me, it's like false. It's all PR stunts. It's $250
And
million dollars. It's these charges that really don't match up with what has happened. Now he might have some claims, but not against the New York Times for, invasion of privacy, because they're reporting on a claim of something of his. I don't understand that.
Well, I mean, you have to, really dig into the details and,
Yeah.
and know a little bit more, which I don't know tons
Sure.
of it, but I don't know that it gets to the level of contractual violation, but like the promissory fraud type thing,
Yep.
I know goes into.
What's promissory fraud?
That would be when you promise somebody something, they rely on that promise, and then they are some way harmed because you broke
And
that promise.
one more rule on that: you have to have an intent to deceive. So if I make you a promise and I actually believe it, you relied on me, but I was wrong.
Sure.
Now, if I knew the right answer and I'm making you rely on me telling you the wrong answer, and I know it's wrong, that's when that comes about.
So
And what the New York Times did allegedly is contact Baldoni.
Baldoni.
I think Baldoni's better. Let's go with Baldoni.
Contacted Baldoni or his people on, let's say a Thursday,
Right.
and said, we were about to publish this story. We're sending it to you, and you have 14 hours to respond. We're doing it. It's going to go live at 1 o'clock.
Whatever,
say.
yep.
And they published it 2 hours early. So not only did they call him,
Gotcha.
and they called him like late at night, like at 7:30 p.m. when he had,
Maybe he was still
Probably-
working on revisions or something
well,
or whatever.
no access to. You got to get in contact with your PR team. You got to
Yeah.
get in contact with your lawyers to know what you can and cannot say.
Gotcha.
And then still drop the story 2 hours before the deadline that they had given him to respond. Type thing.
Gotcha.
So, things like that, and then obviously he's pushing hard on that. But most of his claims seem to be more of a negligence or recklessness type
Right.
claim, not the malice
Right.
claim that they took this information from an unreliable source
Right.
and published it without further
Doctored
fact
it.
checking.
That's what
left
was
out
strange
context.
to me is that normally when you see a case against somebody reporting the news, it's not these charges. It's
Sure.
the other ones, and so that was what was strange. And like I said, Shawn, I don't know all the details of it. I just kind of know more of the procedural history. And one of the things, Chace and Shawn, so that going back to the very beginning with Blake Lively filing that legal complaint. I mean, we understand it, but why didn't she just file a lawsuit? Why did she have to file a legal complaint with the California Civil Rights Department?
Chase?
Well, it comes under Title 7 of the Civil Rights Act, and there are within the law a bunch of different.
Y'all are just wasting my
Well, there's a
liquid gold.
there's
Got to
a
it first.
yeah
So
there
go back to my water.
there's a subset of law called administrative law, and sometimes you have to exhaust your administrative remedies before you can actually file an actual lawsuit. And this is because they've determined that this particular area of law has a ton of claims, and there needs to be a little bit of gatekeeping on whether or not this is an actual something that needs to be filed.
Like a filter.
Like a filter, exactly. And that it meets certain requirements as well. Because if you're going to bring this particular type of claim, it has to have this ingredients. It's like a recipe for baking.
Or to go with our floral,
Yes.
weeding out the not important ones.
There you go.
Or not
Very nice.
justified ones.
Very nice. Yeah.
That transition.
Do you have these all written
Yeah.
down and just
No,
plug
but
them in?
all of your-
But usually if these things are filed, they are a lot of times rubber stamped. Sometimes they will take them up themselves, these civil rights claims. So the department will take it up themselves and pursue it, or they will just say you have a right to sue on your own if they don't want to take it up themselves. I'm not sure what's happened in this particular case, but
Yeah, I don't think there's been a ruling yet.
Okay.
It essentially the the CRD, the California Civil Rights Department, has to give you a ruling on whether you have to go through them. If you're accusing someone of sexual harassment and retaliation in this kind of situation, you cannot file anything until you go through them. It's like the EEOC, and Shawn, I'll let you talk on that. You know a lot more about it than me. But that's why she filed a different lawsuit that doesn't require sexual harassment. Her other one, like I said, was is mental pain and anguish, severe emotional distress, and lost wages. So that one you don't have to go through the gatekeeping. But if you're doing sexual harassment, you do.
Yeah.
And so I think that the people that are listening or watching, the easiest analogy for that would be the EEOC, something like that. Explain that, Shawn. The same kind of situation.
Yeah, they're getting. I had a law school professor that was talking about evidence, and if you would try and present some evidence in class, and you'd be found, they'd have a legal objection to it, the other side, and it would be sustained by the judge or granted, saying, no, you can't bring that in that way.
Right.
But it's something you really need. He would say, you can't get it in that way, get it in another way.
Right.
So there's different things,
Sure.
and that's what they're doing is not waiting for the administrative remedies to go through so that they can file some type of sexual harassment claim, but basing all these other claims on the fact that the sexual harassment occurred,
Right.
type thing. And with the EEOC, which handles claims for religious discrimination, racial discrimination, sexual harassment, discrimination, things like that. They, if you file a complaint with them, which is required for those cases,
Right.
that's the same thing. They will investigate the case for you. They will decide, whether or not they're going to take the case themselves and either handle it administratively or pursue a lawsuit for you. Sometimes it's just a talking to that, no, this company
Right.
needs to put these particular things in place and reinstate this employee, and that's it.
Yeah.
That's the law.
That's the remedy.
Yeah, the remedy.
Yeah.
Other times they say, we're denying the claim.
Yeah.
Other times they give you what's called a right to sue letter, where they say, we've looked at the claim, it seems to meet the what's required for a claim of this nature, and you have the ability to sue, but we're not taking it on ourselves.
And a right to sue doesn't mean that they find that the action happened. They just say, well, there's enough here where it may have happened and it needs to be investigated. So that's another thing. You people hear that, and just same thing. If this one is the legal complaint, you think it's a lawsuit. If she gets a right to sue, you go, well, she must have won. That's just to get through the first hurdle, and this thing's going to continue for.
Most of the time, those things are confidential.
Right.
I don't know California's laws and
that's
rules,
the thing.
but
It's
an
different.
EEOC complaint isn't a public record that anybody can just get a hold of. And, everybody in the media seems to have a hold of this. So who produced that, whether it was, Blake Lively and her team or everything for them to have. And then the same thing with Baldoni's lawsuit.
Baldoni. It's Baldoni.
Baldoni.
Now I'm trying to get you mixed up. I apologize.
Baldoni. Yeah,
that was childish.
Same
that
thing with
childish.
Baldoni's lawsuit is that it has been put out there in PDF form immediately for
almost
people to be
at the
able
same time. It's
to
crazy.
view. And when I read normal news articles and I see the lawsuit, I'll see like the front page of it type thing.
Yep.
The
caption.
News people normally don't provide you with that much access because they want you to read the news and look at their next article that has to do with it type thing. And they've given all this information out for you to, which I like because it's a little bit more transparent.
Yep.
And you can review it and say, well, what she was claiming, he seems to have some, pretty good things about it.
Yeah, you make a good point in that people should probably consider that before you go on some tirade, if you think someone is, has slandered you or whatever, if you do take that, so a lot of things are going to come uncovered and you might not look so great.
Yeah.
I mean, think about the amount of, I've seen this, like, you think you're trying to get justice for yourself, but you're going to find that other side is going to pull up your text messages and your emails and things that maybe don't make you look
houses,
so.
right?
What you're
don't make you
actually
look so
talking
great.
about is a biblical lesson there. Look at the log in your own eye.
Yep.
But yeah, my wife always said that y'all always have to have a layperson on the show because we start talking about legalese,
And
or
arguing over stuff.
Yeah,
that
amongst
may-
one another.
I
But
still have two
what are your
Okay.
what are your
Yeah, I kept writing them down.
main yeah.
All right. So my
Questions.
biggest questions were when we're talking about like intent to deceive and proving malice. I can't imagine that is an easy thing to do.
Yeah.
So would that mean that in this case, I'm sure we could talk about a million cases, but in this case, it appears to me as a layman, this is two Hollywood people who are basically don't like each other very much, as somebody already stated, and they're just having a big old fight in front of the whole world because of their status.
Both are going to benefit from the
Yeah.
publicity.
And what's
Okay.
the old saying?
Yeah, there's no such thing
yeah.
as bad publicity. They're both going to benefit from the publicity. There might be some other angles I don't necessarily want to posit because I don't like to gossip. But
I'll do it. Don't worry.
okay. Well, but yeah, it's going to be good for the movie. All right.
Yeah, the
There's
movie's
just
doing great. It's only going to do better.
Yeah, it's only going to do better for this, and any money that they get from this, these guys, for the most part, they know, the lawyers know they're going to get paid. They're going to bill these actors by the hour,
Yeah.
right? They're going to
And-
bill these directors by the hour.
It's gonna be
And
like
then-
$2,000 an hour.
They didn't
Yeah.
take it on a contingency.
No.
Absolutely not.
So they're going to continue. They're going to keep doing this until somebody gets tired, and they're going to settle these things out of court. And I'd imagine it'll, as soon as people start to calm down, there'll be a quiet little settlement about 6 months after this
then-
movie gets released on
Yeah.
HBO for streaming.
All right.
It's,
That's your
it's
opinion.
already
I'll give you-
streaming.
I'll give
so
you
you can
mine.
watch it now.
Oh yeah, on HBO.
I don't think it's on HBO. It's on.
To pay for it still.
I don't know. Maybe you have to rent it, but
Yeah.
See, I would have at least watched the movie
But
last
I'll be-
night if I would have known that this was the topic.
I'll be honest. I said I didn't watch it, but I've watched so many clips on YouTube that
That
I
you
probably
kinda
I've just
watched
watched
it?
it, but like
Yeah.
out of order.
I haven't seen a single clip of it. I,
Me
just,
either.
I think it's
I
supposed to be
know
a
the
pretty good
general
movie.
what it's about.
Right.
Yeah, I have to say though, the only thing that does
There's a lot that bothers me. I'll
Bo-
finish after you.
bothers me is that if my wife were acting in a movie, all right, so typically if my wife has a disagreement, I stay out of it until I get a green light. My
Yeah.
wife can handle herself, right?
Yeah.
But if you're writing extra climaxing scenes with my wife and y'all are already not agreeing and y'all already fighting, and it's kind of like you feel like it might be some sort of, oh, I'm the director, I'm gonna get a dig, I'm gonna make you be naked longer on scene.
Yep.
You might see me on set, and Ryan Reynolds was on set,
And
apparently, yeah,
they talked all this mess about, they were basically, there was a scene in the movie that he rewrote or wrote or whatever, and the PR around it was like, oh, like he was butting in, why did he need to do that? They gave you the courtesy, bro, to go and be positive of like this was a cool thing that her husband came and rewrote one of the love scenes, and it was portrayed as positive, and then there was this big spin on it. So there's so many different angles to it
Okay.
that I really just don't.
Ryan Reynolds wrote the extra love
One
scene?
of their scenes he went back and rewrote, I believe, was what
Okay.
happened.
Okay.
And the way there was a lot of talk about it because he was
What,
like he was
what was
butting
your,
in.
what was your question again?
Oh,
There
like
you
how
go.
do you actually prove malice and
Yeah,
intent to
and
deceive?
Yeah.
is it just a bunch of Hollywood people running back and
Yeah.
forth?
Yeah.
And so
Yes,
that's
and yes.
that's
Yeah,
where
that's
my
what it
anger
is.
comes from. That's where my
Yeah.
anger comes from. So now we have these insanely wealthy
Yeah.
humans that are just having a pillow fight,
Mm-hmm.
and we already have a backlog in the court system,
Mm-hmm.
and now they have clogged up 3 different areas of law and people that actually have to go to work for a living, and there's other cases that are behind them that are legitimate, and this is just silliness.
Yep.
This is high-powered, high-priced lawyer doing legal gymnastics. At the end of it, there's going to be nothing.
And it's a whole bunch of
Nothing's
shit
gon-
that just got taken out of context.
And nothing's going to
I
happen.
think.
Nothing's going to happen.
I would
There's
say-
not even. It's going to be dismissed everywhere.
Yep.
And that's it. And I enjoy talking about it because I like the legal gymnastics that the lawyers have done, but it's all nonsense, all of it. And you can get mad at me for saying that because this guy said this or this girl said this. When it all comes to a head at the end, everybody knew what they were doing, and everybody is trying to make themselves look good, and they want to make more money because they're entitled Hollywood people.
Well,
That's my opinion.
the
There you
only
go.
thing
Dropping my
The only
mic.
thing I will say is that, I would say the days of the comment that y'all brought up earlier, or the quote that y'all brought up earlier about any publicity, even bad publicity, is good publicity,
Are over.
are coming to a close.
I agree.
mean, we are living in a society of cancel culture. So when Blake Lively makes these allegations and gets some people on board with her, this guy Baldoni is being dropped from contracts and sponsoring agencies and things like that. I mean, so there is whether or not he did it or not, there is economic impact to him.
I know he got dropped
And I don't know that
Ryan
she'll
Reynolds,
recover. If you, I mean, I get served a lot of things for her and that, and probably because I watch all those YouTube clips of that. But on social media, she is not winning.
Yeah.
Like, this,
Well, and it
it
kinda
is
goes
very,
back and forth,
very
too.
negative towards her. Like on
and
most
Shawn,
things that I see.
To
And
Sean's
that's
point right there,
unfortunate.
I know that
Yeah.
Baldoni got dropped by his agent, and his agent was forced to drop him from Ryan Reynolds. Ryan Reynolds,
Yeah. But I
is
don't-
the same agent.
Same
that
agent,
said,
or same
"Hey,
Yeah.
agent
it's me or
company,
you,
yeah.
me or you kind of thing." I mean, me or him.
That's what I'm
kind of
saying.
thing.
So, I mean, there is some
There- I
real
agree with that.
aspects,
I know.
and especially in this day and age,
Yep.
that,
I
people,
overreacted,
people
but I
want to
still stand by my
immediately,
statements.
out, which, I did see a good one the other day where, it was on the internet, news story about it. It appeared legitimate, where a particular person from one side of politics was trying to promote outrage against another person who was wearing a politically significant hat in a Starbucks, and was trying to get the entire crowd riled up that was in Starbucks. They didn't really pay the person any attention. They thought that she might be crazy. She was filming it all and, putting it live on her Facebook and everything like that. And that guy didn't get canceled. No one in the crowd ended up, getting up and harassing
doing
him.
anything. Yeah.
But everybody backlashed against her.
Right.
And she worked at some type of a record company, which appeared to be a very artsy type, liberal type company.
Sure.
And they fired her and said that, music is supposed to bring everyone together, and the divisiveness that she was trying to portray through these videos, even though it was on her personal time, is not the person that we want to employ. So just an example of, how
pendulum
this
swinging back
cancel
and forth.
culture,
Yeah.
is trying to do things to people. And when you get to the celebrity, somebody says something bad about me, maybe somebody doesn't call the Hawk Law Group.
All right.
maybe we don't get a 1-star review.
When you're making, millions and millions of dollars on these films and things, and you have contracts of that nature, and you get passed over for a role or a director's position for a multi-million-dollar film, that's just, it might be a drop
I
in the
agree.
bucket to them because they have so much money already,
Yeah.
but it is still a serious financial impact that it can have upon them.
So, for the average everyday person, when do you think when is it serious enough that they should make a case against someone? What do they need? Or should they not? You know what I mean? Like,
Well,
if they
I
feel
think
like
I
they've
think
been
that
wronged in
if
this
everything that
way.
was said in all the 3 allegations was correct, then I think that you probably have an act. Well, I wouldn't have done it the way that did. I think both parties have an action, but I think that it's just kind of one of those things that it's just childish to me. But yeah, I mean,
Settled better out of court.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
and that's what frustrates me.
unless publicly.
Yeah, and because it to me it's using the system for your own gain and not really trying to get the system to decide it.
Yeah.
It's using the system to have a show. It's
Yeah.
not using the
Yeah.
system for what it's
get a
intended to
resolution.
use to get a resolution.
And-
That's what bothers me about it.
It's like their PR team's working harder than their lawyers.
Right, and they don't
Yeah.
really care the outcome, and you should care about the outcome, because that's why you need to file the case. You believe you've been done wrong, and I understand maybe these people have, but they're not using the system for the end resolution, and that bothers me.
Yeah, so I'm going to just read this because this is some of the grounds for bringing these claims, right? And this is where it becomes difficult. Like you said, when should someone bring a claim?
Immediately.
It's like all right. So under the privacy tort, right? When there's an intrusion upon your seclusion, or someone's entering in a private space like a dressing room without consent, it's actionable if it would be highly offensive to a reasonable person. Okay, for you to come in there. Okay, now, does that person come in and go, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry," and walk out? Or does that person come in and start taking pictures and kind of like, "Oh, those are nice. Mind if I have a turn while you're breastfeeding your baby?" Right?
Good Lord, Chace.
All those well, I'm just.
Wait, is that what happened?
No, I'm just like, wait.
No, these are hypotheticals.
I gave you a completely innocent. I'm sorry.
I'm messing
Those are
with you.
hypotheticals.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, those are yeah. And so one is
trying to be
completely
unbiased.
reasonable, and one is highly offensive.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So the highly offensive one is the one that's actionable. Now, are you going to stop?
That's kind of what the EEOC and that kind of stuff decides. Is
right.
Hey, is there just an act? Now you get to decide the facts.
But
right?
are you going to be willing to drag 12 people out of their lives for a week out of their lives to hear a case and say, y'all need to stop what you're doing in your life because what happened here is so important that I need some justice for it.
Yeah.
Think about that. And that's your good gauge for whether or not you should bring a claim or not.
Yep.
Like both those, the him coming and saying that'd be highly offensive. But should you drag 12 people out?
Yep.
If he does it 10 times, that person needs to be stopped. That person is a jerk, and he's not only doing it to you, he's doing it to somebody else. Yeah, you bring 12 people in because of that, right? You've asked him to stop, and he keeps doing it. Same thing. You bring 12 people in, right? But if it's a one-off silly thing,
you can still complain and make a complaint, but it doesn't have to be a legal complaint.
Yeah. And she might just want a slap on the wrist,
right?
And then sometimes that's all that's required. But
that's
what we're seeing is
I always
lawyers
think
making
of
money,
as,
right?
No, that's all it is.
Like,
it's PR and lawyers making money.
Obviously, I've never been sexually harassed.
Shawn, I try every day with you.
But I mean, women are. And I'm sure there's plenty of men out there that are sexually harassed. But I would say that the number one thing is to immediately file a complaint with supervisors, HR directors, whoever it may be. I mean, not necessarily a lawsuit or with the EEOC.
Well, you report it to somebody you trust at wherever you work.
But
anyone.
It's always, seems, at least suspicious to me when you don't really know the complete timeline of everything. When it's like, we shot this movie, we then went out on a PR run claiming that, he's the greatest director I've ever worked for, and he's claiming, no, she's the greatest actor, really brought life to the part.
Right.
And then it makes $350 million in the box offices, and then all of a sudden, this was a horrible experience. I was, sexually harassed the entire time. It's
but to take the other side of it, you gotta just. But you gotta take it the other way too.
A multi-millionaire actress. You're a multi-millionaire actress married to another multi-millionaire actor. If something was going on that you didn't like, walk off the set. The movie's over.
Right.
Until y'all fix this shit.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna. Okay, one more.
We'll ride it on out.
One more sex scene with Baldoni because he said so.
Yeah.
I mean,
they're rolling in the Deadpool money right now.
From a female perspective, knowing I'm a fan of Blake Lively, you are exactly right. She is a big enough actress to have said
she's the biggest star in the movie. She is
should
the
be
star.
like, I'm not doing this.
That's what I'm saying, and
she's the
After
star.
the fact, it's like, why didn't you say something?
She's the star.
Then?
Like
it's
she's the
different
big
when there's a secretary making $32,000 a year that needs a job, supporting a single mother supporting two kids, and something inappropriate happens, and she knows that she can't go 2 weeks without a job. She can't quit and go try to find another one. Things like that happen, and I understand that, but when you're in her situation, I just think it's a little different.
But I agree. But at the same time, you gotta have open eyes on both ends, because you can get the opposite effect of going, I don't believe any celebrity. And I know I've been saying
Sure.
did not believe them, but I'm saying, like, you still got to, both sides, you got to just look at the evidence and the things that are presented and not choose a side so quick, people. That's all I'm asking.
And don't just read the headlines.
Yeah.
And believe them.
Right.
I mean,
Well, and then she's Blake Lively is getting a lot of flack because she was a huge supporter and proponent of Harvey Weinstein,
Right.
and we'll see where that went. You know,
Well,
Yeah.
that's to be continued.
well, I
All
think
right,
that
Lance.
wraps it
Yeah,
up. Yep. Well, we hope you enjoyed the discussion today. Interesting fact: only 21% of the people that subscribe. Help me out with this fact, Charles. What is it? 21% are subscribers to the page that watch. Okay, if you like the
on,
video,
guys, yeah.
subscribe,
Well,
and turn on
yeah.
your notifications.
if we get,
We'll get
you know,
Shawn to
another
dance.
1,000 subscribers, dry January for Lindsey is coming.
Over immediately.
Okay, I'll take that. You know.
Throw
If
her
we-
in that
yeah.
briar patch.
As a matter of fact, we're at 9,400, I think. So if we get to 10,000 subscribers at any point during January, I will drink to it.
Please subscribe.
Wonderful.
See y'all next time.
See you next time.